We'll go ahead and call the regular meeting of the Charles City Board of Education to order and have roll call attendance, please.
Walker.
Here.
Dyke.
Here.
Freund. Here. Mack.
Here.
Newcomer.
Here.
Connect.
Here.
Agenda item 2 is reading of the district mission statement by Student Director Connect.
Our mission is to engage, inspire, and empower students and staff in order to maximize learning.
Thank you. Agenda item 3 is the approval of the agenda. Are there any additions or corrections?
No changes.
No changes. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second to approve the agenda. I'll vote by voice vote for the first time. And have all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Agenda item 4 is welcoming of the visitors and to take public comment. Tonight, if you would wish to comment on anything that does not appear on the agenda as an agenda item, this would be your opportunity to do so. The policy or the procedures clearly printed in your agenda tonight, and remind you that you'll be limited to 2 minutes, which will be timed on my phone, and an alarm will sound at the end of the 2 minutes notifying you that it's expired. If that happens, I would strongly encourage you to reach out and provide any additional written comments or any other comments you weren't able to make. So, do we have any public comment tonight for items that are not on the agenda?
Yes, this is a little tall, but.
Larry, I'll help you. Just
I'm Nancy Simerson, and I do want to say that I think this board does have a lot of things to celebrate right now. Actually, we've come a long way in this school district. We've got a lot of new things happening, but this is just the beginning. We have just scratched the surface of things that we need to do, but we are heading in the right direction.
Awesome. Thank you, Nancy. Any additional public comment for items not on the agenda?
My name is Ann Benning. I'm the chair of the Citizens Campaign Committee. And I know I introduced myself, or Justin introduced me a while ago, but I wanted to officially introduce myself again. My card is at your places, so you can contact me with anything that has to do with the campaign committee, whether it's sharing feedback with us or sharing information with us or soliciting feedback from the campaign committee. I just want to make sure that you know that we are a very passionate group of community members that are really behind all of you, and I just wanted to make sure you had all my contact information so that you can contact me directly as the request for the campaign committee information as in regards to that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your work.
Any additional public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item 5, comments by board members and the superintendent.
In lieu of public comments, I'm going to have Justin play an 8-minute video that we shared at our recent Professional Learning Day that captures the Make It Happen theme this year for the first half of the 2017-18 school year.
We had a nice turnout for the musical. I mean, we filled all of our parts, no problem. Had lots of kids come out for auditions. It was fantastic. And then everything came together really nicely for us this year. We had help from all kinds of different departments. Jim Lumberg has his kids come in and actually build the main set pieces for us. Having the number of directors that we've had and new directors come in really has helped us to split up responsibilities well and to play off each other's strengths. But there's been a lot of different factors in what has helped our program grow. I think it's been growing now for a while, and I think it just keeps continuing to go in a positive direction. I spend a lot of time working with the junior high students. Any days that Mrs. D needed help with students, I was right there to help her. Taking sectionals, I directed the men in a men's piece last year on their concert, and I think those kind of relationships that I built with them have paid off.
The beginning of the year, we challenged each other to do a piñata party, and that was pretty fun. Mm-hmm. We've done ice cream parties.
Lunch in the classroom, lunch in the courtyard, pizza parties.
Pajama day.
Mm-hmm.
they have to work together as a classroom to earn that reward. So instead of just getting the individual comment cards, they have to work as a team to earn that incentive, which then promotes other positive interactions with other kids throughout the building. Right now we're spreading kindness to all the different people in our building, like we're making flowers and cards for the cooks today. We made things for Mrs. Shannon, we've made things for Mark the janitor. So I would like to see us do more things like that to acknowledge other people.
Crazy 8 Math Club is an after-school club, enrichment, skill booster for any student who's interested in math, whether they're the best math student or the worst math student.
I see a lot of excitement in it. They'll say to you in the hallways, Crazy 8 on Monday, that kind of thing. And I think that's fun to watch that kind of reaction.
And I think the math is a little bit more hidden. When we did the zip lines, we were measuring and we talked about angles. But if they measured their angles, fine. If they didn't, that's fine too. Some chose to, some chose not to. But now in 4th grade, we're into angles, so someone might say, oh, when we were doing the zip lines, we had that angle and we made a triangle with the wall and the floor.
We had put together a after-school program that we began with the intentions of giving them more time to be with us and giving them more time to learn more about each other outside of the classroom.
We also noticed as the year went on, a lot of the kids were staying later and later. They didn't want to leave. So we wanted to have a positive environment for them to hang out with the teachers and with each other. Our goal, simply put, is to build relationships with the kids and for the kids to build relationships among each other as well. We really encourage them to talk to people that they don't normally talk to at school, to get to know each other.
Food grid class is a class that we decided a year ago would be a good opportunity for kids to grow some foods, make the connection between farm to table. Growing a garden, starting in August, created some challenges for the kids. So they had to come up with some foods that would grow quickly. And then they also had beehives started last spring, so we were able to incorporate that as part of our meal. One of the best ways for kids to take ownership in a project and to learn and grow is when they actually get to do hands-on.
So I'm super excited about the elementary kids having their first concert ever. Performance is a huge element of music, and it also is important because when they get into high school, they might not necessarily be involved in music, but they're going to have to give speeches or presentations, and just getting comfortable in front of a large group of people is a big deal, especially at this age level. I am excited to be a part of this first-time experience for these students and for the community since it's been so long. It's very exciting.
So I found a basketball hoop in the collection of that people didn't need anymore, so confiscated that and I hung it up above my door so I have them shoot 10 free throws. And the more they make, the better the prize they get. They purchase a chance with 10 comic cards and they get excited. They really do. They really want to come and do it, so it's pretty cool. My biggest thing is I like doing things for the kids, and it makes me feel good to make them feel good. So.
We had started a mugging where we kind of started passing mugs anonymously throughout the high school to kind of just spread cheer, obviously. Like anonymously, people don't know who they're getting the mug from. And then something else we did was Croctoberfest. It was a giant potluck. Principal Appreciation Week or month was right around that time. So a bunch of us had got together and had created a poster and had put it right outside the office for Mr. Wolf and Mr. Johnson. There's a lot of people that are like, wow, we've never done anything in that in the years that I've been here, but they seem excited about it. And they get a smile on their face, which what's the one thing that, is a good sign of positivity? A smile,
During MTSS, our 5th grade team has worked on dividing our students according to math groups. And we look at the standard that we are working on for math, and we level them according to their understanding of that standard.
I think it's just a time that you can take to further teach students who aren't understanding it. So right now we're focused on math. In the future, I think we want to focus on reading as well, even some science and social studies.
We have this Orange Frog parking lot set up in the lounge that we stole that idea from Lincoln, but that's where staff can acknowledge each other for the good things that everybody's doing every day. To involve the kids as well, we have a tree up front, and for Thanksgiving, we decorated leaves with things that they're thankful for and hung those up. For Christmas, we're changing it to things that they can do to be kind to other people. So they're recording like little random acts of kindness, and we're going to hang those up on the tree. For the staff, it just always feels good to be acknowledged. So, and we do have a little prize that goes along with that. You know, it's chocolate or a pop or something like that. So everybody likes to be acknowledged. You know, sometimes we're embarrassed about it or that kind of thing, but everybody feels good, you know, to get a positive acknowledgement like that.
The student I work with this year was always used to having somebody right there all the time, reinterpreting directions, maybe even doing the writing for him, the typing for him, all of that. And I've just slowly throughout the year kind of weaned off of that. I get a whole lot of, I can handle it, just let me do it, which is good, that's what I wanted. So I'm able to get up and maybe go help another student that has their hand raised at independent work time for a few moments and know that he's going to keep working and that he'll be fine.
And I think there's just a huge need for our students at a younger age to understand how to handle some of these social skills.
And we're practicing that. I mean, the actual skill of modeling and looking each other in the eyes and actively listening and repeating what they said so that they get that clarity, and I guess just having like a real life experience within the classroom.
And ultimately, that's what this building is. You know, if you think about how this building was designed to be collaborative, going to a space that you can work in by yourself or with a group of people, these social skills are going to lead to that.
Do we clap?
You can clap here. There's a quick glance at the fall semester.
Awesome. Any additional comments by board members?
That was really good. So whoever wrote and directed that was really nice, and it was really good to get all the teachers involved. I think it was really a good perspective of what's going on. Very exciting.
Yeah.
As Nancy said, we have much to be proud of. As proof of it, yeah, thank you.
That's so true. I mean, there's so often times people get so hung up on the negatives that they see or hear about the district, pushing the positive message, and how overwhelmingly what we do in these buildings is very positive. It's important, I think. So thank you, Justin, for putting that together, and everyone else that was involved. Anything else? Move on to committee reports, which I don't believe there are any, so we'll skip right on by there to the job shadowing. I believe we're going to draw.
We are drawing names for Lincoln Elementary this month.
Careful.
Ooh, 11.
11. So you will have Eric Hofer.
12.
12. Robin, you will have Susan Hofer. Sue Hofer. Have all the formal names on here. 4. Marie Conklin.
I will do it. You'll get it. I'll get it done.
2. Laura Boss.
15.
Melinda Masters.
14.
And 14, Mrs. Ludeman.
Awesome. And we will report on those at the first meeting in February.
And to recap, so Josh, Eric Hofer is 3rd grade, Sue Hofer is PE, Marie Conklin is instructional coach, success coach at the K4 level. Scott, Laura is a 4th grade teacher. Missy, you've got another 4th grade teacher, and then another 4th grade teacher. So 4th grade is well represented this month.
Excellent. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item 8, which is the German-American Partnership Program update.
Before I speak to you about the status of GAP, I would like to have Riley Lair read a letter that she wrote just very extemporaneously one day in class after the group learned that there was an anonymous donor to their trip.
So, as she said, I'm Riley Lair. I'm in 11th grade. And when I found out that someone had donated to our trip who wanted to be kept anonymous, so, like, whether you're anonymous or not, obviously it means very much, but the fact that they didn't want to take the credit, it's just something special, I guess. And so to start, I said, hello, stranger, because I don't know. And then I said, my name is Riley Lair, and I am one of the 9 GAP students from Charles City going to Germany in June. I wanted to say thank you so much for your donation, thoughtfulness, and selflessness. Because for me, when someone will take money and like give it to me and my friends for something that we care so much about, it's just very special. And then I said, it means so much to me that people from the community care so much about this life-changing trip as I do. And I'm gonna cry. I wanted to go to Germany for a really long time, so I'm just... I have been anticipating this trip since 8th grade, and a long time before that, because my siblings always spoke in German, and I was super jealous. And I knew I'd have the opportunity, and have been beyond excited ever since. It again means so much that you were willing to help out 9 strangers on a journey of a lifetime for each of us. I hope one day I find out who you are, so I can thank you in person, and that it means so much. And I'm a really ugly crier, so sorry. But this trip, like, I like German a lot. And the fact that we have the class and the teacher that we do and the board supporting us so much, it just means a lot to me, because it's like literally a dream come true to like go to Germany. So that's basically my letter. And I didn't mean to cry, but...
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, and I can't say that I'm not going to cry either, because I might. These kids do put a lot of work and a lot of heart into this, and I thought her explanation that she had been really looking forward to this since 8th grade was a good lead-in to what I have to tell you. And shortly, and I do mean shortly before Thanksgiving, I got, well, it wasn't even a letter. A student in my class said, Frau Butcher, is it true that GAP is no longer in existence? And I'm thinking, no, not that I'm aware of. And I thought, why would he be asking me that? So I decided I better do some investigating and find out. And come to find out, Walsrode, who we have had an exchange with for 28 years, surprisingly, and I think even for them, it was a very difficult decision, and one that had a lot of input from a lot of people in their school, has decided to discontinue their program with us. However, for me, that does not mean GAP has ended, because it hasn't. We are part of GAP New York, and I immediately called there and said, what do I do now? Because I don't want to end GAP for our school. The school board knows the value of this, the community knows the value of this, the kids know the value of this, and I certainly do. So I was told some things that I needed to do and where to look, and I have found a number of schools actually in Germany who do want to have an exchange, and there are a few in the same area, and 2 in particular very close to Walsrode. So it's the same topography, it's the same kind of rural area that we are used to, yet there are large cities an hour away or so. So I am just very pleased that I have found those 2. I mentioned this to Laura Larson, who is a teacher in St. Ansgar, who we share this program with now. And we got together over Christmas vacation, and we need to describe our schools in a fairly concise paragraph or 2 or 3 to share with the schools who are searching as well. And then I plan to make contact, I'm hoping, immediately after at the end of the quarter, so that, and I know one of the schools says we want to have an exchange in 2018. And I'm so excited about that, because that means I really have to get at this, get this work done, get some communication going between the 2 of us. And as someone just said today, this is just a little speed bump or a detour. You know, it's just another direction, chapter 2, chapter 3, maybe I'm chapter 2, whatever. But I just wanted to reassure you and the public that this program is going to continue. So, yeah.
It's really good to hear.
Yeah.
Well, you know how excited that makes me, because I was so disappointed.
Oh, I know, and I just got an email today saying, I'm so sorry about GAP, and I'm going, I have to reply to this immediately because it is not ended. It's just, you know, we have a little different work to do.
In the Friendship
Establish
Center.
this all over again, and I would love to have this one be as long, be as ongoing. 28 years would be wonderful.
Or even if it isn't, if we always have another opportunity.
Yes.
Those friendships are so great.
Oh, they are.
I mean,
it's not just the language, and we all know
no,
that.
it's the friendships.
Yes.
The
Yes.
communication we have with our former German students goes on, and
Yes.
it's fun to watch. And
Yeah.
listen.
Yeah, and there are so many families within this community
Mhm.
that can say that as well.
Absolutely.
Which is, yeah,
Absolutely.
so important. Right.
I also encourage you to share the letter as an editorial to the press. It would be a great way, I could assure you that the person you're probably intending it to will see it that way, along with giving another great example to the community, how much we do support the GAP program.
And this hands-on video is like the immersion hands-on, yeah, for the language and the culture, right? So I hope I can come back to you next month and say, everything is a go, but we'll see.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Keep at it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming and sharing that. It's, I mean, these speed bumps that we hit with whatever program it is, you look at these, and without the dedication of our staff and commitment, some of these things would just go away. And that's obviously not what any of us want to see with anything, and so we greatly appreciate that. Riley, for coming, thank you, because it's an intimidating environment to stand there and speak. I know it is, I've been there. So to come and share that with us means a lot, and we all greatly appreciate it. So we'll move on to agenda item 9, and public comment change. We talked about this at the last meeting. We kind of said we would talk a little bit more about it here. We didn't really come to a total final point last time, but there's a recommendation on here. I kind of said, I could go either way on it. I put this forward as for conversation. I want all of us to kind of be on the same page and agree with what policy or procedure we're going to implement. So I'll leave it to you guys for comments.
A couple of questions I would have is if there's anybody here who has any comment about that, we would love to hear it.
Yeah, Nancy, you've been through, if you would.
So
Yeah.
I would defer to the president whenever he's ready to discuss that.
Yeah. Well, let's hear any comments you guys have first, and then we'll let the so that you know what we say first is kind of how I would say that. Any other comments or?
The other comment I would have is I've been around town and I haven't had anybody bring this up to me at all about it. I didn't wear a sign or a shirt that said this was a change that was coming, so I would be interested to hear if there's any public comment. So, thank you.
Thoughts, Robin?
Just that as I stated before, sometimes I feel like a question doesn't arise until once the agenda item is discussed. Because our explanation of an agenda item is just a brief few sentences. And the meat of it and what you're really going to speak about doesn't happen until the agenda item is really discussed. And sometimes the description isn't exactly what ends up being talked about. It doesn't give a very good description. So I'm in favor of keeping some sort of discussion from the public at each agenda item. Keeping the time down, I think, is fine, but I'd like to see it remain at each item.
Okay. Thoughts?
I would rather change it from at the beginning of the meeting to each agenda item. For people to have a comment at the beginning of the meeting for things that aren't on the agenda, that's what emails and telephone calls and personal visits are for, other than getting it in front of everyone at once, but they can do that via email too. I would rather see us keep it at each agenda item individually.
So eliminate that initial.
If I was gonna do something, I'd eliminate the initial versus the agenda items.
Okay. Thoughts?
I can see both sides. I mean, when I was coming to the board meetings to talk about the allergy policy, you know, for me, honestly, it maybe would have been more convenient if I could have discussed that right at the beginning and not stayed through some parts of the meeting, because I have my girls at home and things like that. But also I can see Robin's point where sometimes the question doesn't come up until you're talking about it, you know, at that time. So I'm kind of torn as to, I can see both
That's kind of why
sides of
I
it.
brought it up, because it's not, there's no perfect way.
Would it be wrong to have it, okay, so why couldn't we option both ways?
Okay.
Obviously, if somebody's come to make a comment and they're ready to make a comment, we allow them to make a comment, but we could still open it for comments at the discussion item. So in Missy's case, if it is something that you wanted to come, you needed to leave, you could make your comment, and then you could leave.
You don't have to wait till agenda
You don't
item
have to
15
wait for the
do it,
agenda
yeah.
item 15. We're not going to be, I don't see where we're going to be taking any more time, because more than likely, if you're going to make a comment, you're going to make a comment then, or you're going to make a comment at the time of the agenda item, so the amount of time you're going to use is probably the same.
Yeah.
So maybe that's our solution.
Yeah.
When you were at the convention and this topic was brought up, was it you allow comments and you get into conversations with the public?
That was
or what?
That was the primary concern, was the opportunity for basically a violation of sunshine laws or anything like that, where an inappropriate conversation got going, or a heated argument got going, or we had some. I can remember some of the early on meetings before I was on the board. We had obviously very controversial items, and there were some very heated comments. Who knows when that'll come around again? Could be tonight. I don't know, but it may not come around ever again. But eliminating that opportunity was a big thing for what the IASB folks were talking about. So I look at that too, is that okay, that could, as board president, that should probably be on me to control that conversation too. And we didn't, back then, we didn't really have that. It did morph into a free-for-all at times, inappropriately. So
I truly believe there's inexperience there.
Yeah.
On probably a lot of our parts.
Sure.
And even if we find ourselves in that situation again, I think it would play out considerably different this time.
Yeah, I think the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the same, and that's why I thought bringing this, even if we don't make any changes or we just slightly tweak things, just having the conversation is so that we're all on the same page going forward. And what is or is not or could be considered inappropriate or appropriate. So.
And I agree, the president's probably will be a responsibility if something were to.
Yep. So, That's my, I don't, the time limit, a couple of things, the time limit, at times 2 minutes is not enough, other times 2 minutes is, whatever. So I could go 2 or 3 minutes. It seemed like a lot of places it was common for 3 minutes, but.
3 minutes is fine.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
And the other question was to, at the beginning or at the end of each agenda item, specifically. We've been doing at the end, I think the policy states at the beginning, but I think we would try to make that a formal procedure.
The problem again, at the
Is-
beginning, how do I know what I want to say if I haven't heard
It's-
administration's
Yeah.
conversation, recommendation, or the board conversation?
Yep, yeah,
And we do want public input.
yes,
I
absolutely.
don't want to go back to where people felt like there was no public input on what was
Yeah.
happening here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of misunderstanding too on how board meetings run, but,
It's difficult to be transparent if you don't allow the public to ask questions or make comments.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
And again, going back to what was talked about at the ISB convention, if it gets into an area that is a back and forth, or it starts to get into a back and forth with someone or the public, then that's why you have a gavel.
Yep, absolutely. So,
Not that any of us like to be told to be quiet or sit down, but that's why you have a gavel.
yep, absolutely.
Part of it stems too from the board meeting is a public meeting
Yeah.
versus, or excuse me, a meeting held in public instead of a public meeting.
Yeah.
And the policy that we currently have, which is going to need to be altered
Mhm.
either way that you decide, says that it's either comment at the beginning or at agenda items. It's not both. And we've disregarded that now for a couple of years. So the policy committee, which will need to meet soon, is going to have to draft whatever it is that you'd like it to be, either at the beginning or at each agenda item. Or if you're going to make no changes and allow both, the policy needs to reflect what we're actually doing.
okay.
Excellent.
And then we would still, though, have agenda items like what we have next, where it's nothing but public input.
Yeah.
Whether it's a high school modernization plan,
Yep.
we've had sessions again in the past where we allow public, faculty and staff, student input on budget cuts. I mean, those types of things would continue.
Yeah, absolutely.
No matter what
Yeah.
we change.
Right,
in
because that's what the agenda item says.
Our procedural, yes.
The purpose of it is to get input from the public on whatever the topic is.
Specific.
Yes.
Excellent. So, yeah, I think what I'm hearing is we'd refer, we'll ask for public comment here in just a moment, but refer to the policy committee for final drafting of something to be voted on. Is that what you would expect or recommend?
I was expecting the five of you to say, here's what we'd like,
Okay.
and then we just go write it and bring it back to you.
Okay.
So it sounds like public comment is very important. And we
Very
want to have that,
important. Yeah.
not only at the beginning potentially, but also at each agenda item where there could be some item that the public would want to share with us.
And preferably at the end of the,
So it sounds like
Of the
maybe instead of at the
board
beginning,
discussion.
but at the end.
Okay.
in 3 minutes.
3 minutes?
Fine.
Okay. All right. Well, at this time, I'll go ahead and ask for public comment, and do have to remind you of the procedures written. I know you're very, very familiar with them, Nancy.
So yes, Nancy Simonson again. I was here in 2013. I know exactly why we have this law, because we felt like we didn't have a voice. And Scott and Robin are two of the 4 people that were selected to the board at that time. And that is why we had such an upheaval at that time, because they just wanted to rush everything through. They just wanted to get it all through, and they didn't want the public input. And now look what we have. Look at this new middle school that we have now because of this change. So, and if I don't get here, like if you say that you're gonna have it at the beginning and you do gavel at 6 o'clock, which you do, you start the meeting right on time. If someone cannot get here, they can't say anything. So here you are, you know, you've come and you can't say anything. So it's better, and we don't know what you're gonna talk about. So here, we could hear, I could tell how you all feel, that you had varied opinions. So we do, the people do want to be heard.
Excellent. Thank you, Nancy. Any additional public comments on this agenda item? No? Any further discussion?
Other than thank you for bringing that up and for helping us get our policies so that they align with the way we're conducting our meetings.
And is anyone willing or able to
Sure.
formulate a motion there?
I'll put a motion out. I'd like to recommend that we ask the policy board to bring a policy to the school board that would give us public comments at the beginning of our meeting, public comments after an agenda item that would last no more than 3 minutes.
I'll second that.
That's a 3-minute per person?
Excuse me, thank you. 3 minute per person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Clarification?
Yep.
Thank you.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? We'll call for all in favor, say aye.
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 All in favor, all against, say no. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 10. We will have the public input on the high school modernization plan.
So I've asked Justin to put up the graphic from last time. On December 19th, as you recall, Gene Underwood was here from BLDD, shared a very rough sketch of the high school modernization plan. There we go. And we put this on our website and asked the public to comment. We have had 11 responses, so very, very minimal when it comes to public reaction to this plan. But what we were most interested in, because this is not the final plan that we're going to adopt, what we most wanted to know was reaction to big concepts like, do you like the placement of the auditorium in the center of the building? What do you think about the large courtyard space and how it relates to the academics? And I believe there was another question, just overall impressions. So this is an opportunity for the public to come to the microphone and talk about any aspect of this plan. Could be some of the things that I raised on December 19th, because I just really had a lot of questions. I was struggling to embrace this as our plan for the high school modernization when it comes to items like parking and relating that to Comet Gym, the placement of the auditorium, how just visually what it was going to look like as you're pulling up to it. Again, I know it's rectangles and really hard to imagine what goes in those spaces, but as you look at it, what are your takeaways? What do you like? What do you not? And I'll leave it at that. So I don't know if you want to jump to public first or board members first, but this is kind of a big picture reaction. I will share that BLDD has come back with a different drawing after this that is much better and aligns with more of the initial concerns that we did receive from December 19th onward until the beginning of January. And I see some more refinement coming, but I am really interested in knowing from our stakeholders what you do like and suggestions that you have for making this better if there are things that you don't.
Excellent. Yeah, I think that, it's obviously an important part of the process of getting this right and something that will be supported by the community. I know all of us board members have talked about this and been through this, so I think at this time we'll take public comment and hopefully hear, like Dr. Cox said, what are the big things that are out there? What are people going to support and what are people not going to support? Because ultimately we've got to get that right to make this a reality. So.
Right.
Other than I just wanted to make the comment that, when we saw this last time, we said we supported it, and not saying that we support this exactly as it is. What we support is there's all the elements we wanted. We wanted, we see the auditorium, we see the learning studio spaces, we see the commons area, we see outdoor works. Those are the things that we want to see. Having been through this process before, we know we're at the infant stage of this, and we know how much farther we need to go. And at some point, we have to say, we want this, this, and this, and this. Okay, now it fits here. Now, how we end up eventually arranging it on here is a whole nother to come yet, but what we're excited to see is the space we have is going to accommodate the needs we want, the things we want, and the needs we have.
Yep.
So that's where our approval came
Yep.
from that in the last meeting. I just wanted to clarify that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. At this time, I'll ask for any public comment. The policies and procedures outlined in the agenda will apply here as well. Comments will be limited to 2 minutes, and an alarm will sound when your time has expired.
Can I go over here and point?
You have to use the mic.
You have to have a microphone, Nancy.
Yep, Justin's helping. Oh, wait.
Hold on. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. Hold on.
Yeah, she got it.
I do thank the fact that we have taped this because I couldn't be here, so I could go and listen to everything that everybody said. I like the idea. I've been to Independence. I went there in January when it was really, really cold. It was a snow day. They came and they showed our people what they had in Independence. We saw some really good things. I would face the theater this way. I would put the Commons area right here. I see having the music rooms here because you talk about these 2 hallways. You would only need to have, you could still have your high school entrance. You could have one hallway here that comes down over to get to, where's the new gym? Right here? There's a hallway you could put in here that would come right down here. So you wouldn't have 2 hallways because you were talking about supervision. Now, it's vague. It's really vague to me because I don't know, which classrooms are where, but I don't see any wrestling room and I don't see any weight room. And honestly, that weight room is too small. It's been there for like 20 years. We've got equipment that's really old because my husband was the head of the booster club when we got it. I don't see anything happening over here. I'm hoping we're having remodeling back in this shop area because it's got 3 huge rooms back there and 1 teacher back there trying to supervise, and you need windows, you need something. You need new wiring. So that they really like the space they have back there, like for the vocag and all that, but they need some work. So I hope it's going to fit in there. So then I go and I listen to the presentation about the finances because you guys kept saying this 21 million, so I thought, where is it coming from? So Matt Gillespie did a good job explaining that, but high schools are expensive. They're more expensive than middle schools. So what I'm wondering is, can we really afford this? We have to do something, but we have to do it right. And I don't want us to cheap out. That's my concern, is that we're going to cheap out on this. Independence is proud of what they've got. You go to their school webpage and they tell you exactly what they built and how they did it.
Thank you, Nancy.
So it's just the beginning.
Yeah. Excellent.
He's got a microphone.
Corey?
Yes.
Because it's a public comment on the plan, so this is all part of what's been posted. If I could, I'll address 3 of your questions up there.
I'll stand.
Thank you.
I'm good.
So Nancy has pointed out that she doesn't see a new wrestling room, and that is correct on this plan. There is no new wrestling room on that plan. She pointed out she doesn't see a new fitness or weight room. That is correct. There is not one shown on that plan. And thirdly, she pointed out that it doesn't look like there's any renovation to the south wing or the north wing. And that's their error. They should have colored that so that you could tell the south wing is going to be renovated and the north wing is going to be renovated. So thank you for those 3 questions.
Excellent.
Thanks, Corey.
All right.
My name is Corey Much. First of all, I guess I'm not an architect, but I do agree with a lot of things that Nancy said as well. Just kind of going over, talking with people around town, our first impression was, and no offense to BLDD, but everybody thought, wow, that's sloppy. And it made a bad first impression. I'm a little worried that we only got 11 people that made comments on it, because that's not what I heard. I heard a lot of comments. So that's a little scary, and it's a little disheartening, because you want comments and you want public to speak, and they're not speaking. So here's me. I'm going to speak. So first of all, I've been to numerous sporting events with the new gymnasium. Awesome. Parking is not that great. It's tough. The addition to this parking here is great. So what's going to happen when we do an auditorium? I realize the parking's up here, but what if the auditorium was moved down here, giving better access to the industrial arts so they could do set building back and forth? I realize that you need kitchen load area, but to configure the idea, we could work through that. But if you bring the auditorium down here, there's a lot of tree space here. Couldn't this become another parking area to double as parking for both athletic and the theater? I get also that the theater is a showman's part of it, that you want it to be the grand entrance, seeing that. But why couldn't this be a grand entrance to the theater in the back area of the school? I went to school in Grundy Center High School. We had a large staircase going to the theater. I could speak for hours.
I know you can.
But
I know you can. And I tell you what, we want to hear it all, so I encourage you to continue to submit comments to us.
That's a lot of it, but again.
Yep. Next meeting, you'll get an extra minute. I think it sounds like. Thank you, Corey. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, Corey, if I could just say one thing. I think that the number of people who responded also is concerning to the board, that we want to get more public comment than 11 people. So, you know, as was touched on, that this is the infancy, the first plan.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And I think people who have been in Charles City for more than 2 years know that when we went through the middle school, it wasn't, the first plan was the first one that was chosen. There was a lot of discussion and iterations, and I think that they see that that process will unfold again here. So we're hopeful as this process moves along,
I think that
we'll put some zeros behind that 11
Yeah.
and get more than that.
Yep.
So.
And we'll push to try to get people.
So I think it's a great point, so thank you.
Thank you, Corey. Anybody next?
And before, interject one thing before you speak. It is very tempting to become an architect and say, well, what if we just move this hallway, and what if we just move that box? And I've worked with staff to not do that, and to instead say, all right, how big of an auditorium do we need, and where would be an ideal place to put it? Is it in the middle, or is it somewhere on an outside near parking? And then let the architect find that spot and know that it either needs to be in the middle, like Independence, or on the outside near parking, because there are pros to both of that. So I would love to, fiddle around and move things too, but I've even stopped myself from doing that and just said, here's my feedback, here's what I'm hearing from people. Now architects take that and do what you do, because they're the experts at architecture. We're experts at all types of other things. So
excellent.
Okay. Ann Benning again. I'll walk over here. The campaign committee, after our last meeting, we had a lot of discussion. You can imagine it was very passionate, and we had a whole list of questions that we shared. We shared with Dr. Cox, so we certainly can provide those questions to you as well. But as we talk about infant stage, I also have concerns of timeline. So I think that's something we also need to take into consideration if we don't have, as we continue to get the support of the community and seeing more and more people provide information, we have a timeline. So we have to make sure that we're paying attention to that. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Any additional comments?
And the architects received all of that. I forwarded the 2 pages on to them.
And I believe it to be the plan that we'll come back at the next meeting with additional revisions from all of this?
Yeah, yes.
And please come back, because you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
Any chance we'll be able to see the revision?
You have to be at a microphone.
Is there any chance we're going to see the revision before the next meeting, or will it be at the next meeting?
The most recent one?
Yes.
Because it's not going to be the final one, that's why I didn't bring it tonight, because then you'd get attached to, oh, I like this, but they're gonna keep working to refine the things that aren't quite right yet, so I'm hoping that on the 22nd, everybody looks at it and says, now that's the plan that we can support.
Excellent. Any additional comments, board members? Nope. Excellent. We will move on to agenda item 11 and set the date for lobbying at the state capitol.
All right, we have January 24th picked as our date. That is a Tuesday.
It's Wednesday.
A Wednesday, sorry. It is a Wednesday. Select because there are no activities after school, so it makes it easier to plan the day and not have to be racing back for a basketball game, since we do have 10 school districts that are represented. They include Charles City, Osage, Riceville, Howard Wynn, Turkey Valley, New Hampton, Nashville Plainfield, Clarksville, North Butler, and Rockford. So I need to find out from our board members how many of you plan to go. And then if that is the date that you'd like to go, there's a motion there to set that for our lobbying date.
What time would we start?
We would leave probably 5:30 in the morning.
And then what time typically do you?
We have stayed until lunchtime.
Okay.
That's flexible. One year, there was a subcommittee meeting in the afternoon, like at 1 o'clock. We stayed, Jason spoke to a subcommittee, and then we came back. I think last year we took off at 11 a.m. or so to make our return back home. So we kind of play it by ear, but we do leave pretty early because we want to be on the floor of the House to be introduced to the entire group prior to 8:30.
So I have a prior engagement on that day that starts at 10 a.m., but I would be happy to meet the board there at 8 and work until 9:40 or so when I have to leave.
Okay.
So.
Perfect. Yeah.
I would be available as long as, you know, I can clear it
Yeah,
work, but.
sure. Yeah, I'm in.
24th, yeah. We
Scott's
can
in.
go.
Robin?
I'm looking. It's not loading. If we can be back by 5, that would be no problem.
Yeah, that's the intent.
All right. Fallon? You don't know yet?
That's a big group.
Yeah, that is a big group. That'll be.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see how.
I like that it's outside of the general IASB date that's set.
We're
You know,
getting enough of us, though. We're creating.
Yeah, we're creating
an
our own
event.
regional, you know,
Event.
yeah, which is great. It's
Iowa
just
event.
nice to be recognized and not lost in the crowd. So I like that we go outside of that date.
Well, I'd be willing to make a motion if that's what we want to do. Let's do it. I make a motion to set our,
January 24th.
or set our lobbying date as January 24th, 2018 in Des Moines.
I'll second.
A motion and a second to set January 24, 2018 as our lobbying date in Des Moines. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0. Agenda item 12, Better Boardsmanship Book Study. Looks like this is our warning call for.
It's a warning call, so we have selected Orange Frog, which is the book that all of our staff have read. So it's 60 pages. It literally will take you 1 hour or less to read. January 22nd, 90 minutes max.
Only because it took me an hour and a half to read. Now I'm really disappointed in myself.
At our next board meeting, we will start our book talk on that.
Excellent. Move on to agenda item 13, resolution supporting IPERS.
There's been a lot of talk coming out of Des Moines. Senator Brown told us last month that no, don't be worried, there are no changes coming. But talk still circulates, and so there is a resolution supporting the Iowa Public Employees Retirement System that I put before the board asking that we adopt this and send it on to the press and to our legislators. I believe the President
I will go
Walker's
ahead
going
and
to read it.
read the resolution. Whereas the hardworking women and men in the Charles City Community School District are the foundation of our school district, and whereas employees are entitled to basic protections and promises that the state has made to them, including the right to expect that IPERS not be changed negatively, nor the benefits of current or future employees be put at risk. And whereas any changes to IPERS that would diminish retirement security and predictability will hurt employee morale and lead to the inability to attract and retain dedicated, well-trained, experienced, and conscientious public servants. And whereas the school board members of the Charles City Community School District value our employees and the relationships that have that have been established. We strongly believe that our community and our state benefit when employees have a strong, predictable retirement system. Be it resolved that a copy of this resolution immediately be sent to all members of the Iowa Press, the Office of the Governor, and all representatives and senators of the Iowa State Legislature.
I move to approve the resolution.
I'll second it.
A motion and a second to approve the resolution as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries 5-0.
I know I'm proud enough just to speak it. Can I give you a fact that goes with this IPERS? So I'm really happy that you, normally I don't have so many things to talk about.
Yeah, one brief one.
But in Floyd County this year, or this was 2015, there were 684 people that got IPERS out of our county, and that was $9.5 million. So the IPERS, it's not only school employees, but it's your city employees, our hospital employees. So yes, we are watching over that very carefully.
Thank you, Nancy.
We don't want to change it.
Agenda item 14 is the audit report for 2016-17.
I'm going to have Justin put up a PowerPoint just to talk briefly about the audit report. I'm not going to go through the numbers because the numbers are the same as what was in the CAR. So the financial information is the same. As far as the audit opinion again is stated on page 4 that the financial statements referred to present fairly in all material aspects. This is the standard opinion that auditors give and is a good unqualified opinion. There's one of the highlights, I guess, of the report that isn't in the CAR is the economic factors bearing on the district's future. And so every year, the district has the opportunity to put information into the audit report that they find significant. We included, like we have for quite a few years, the fact that declining enrollment has an effect upon our finances. And so because of the decrease of 11.24 students, we're planning to make budget reductions for the next fiscal year. Also, there's a comment about the BLDD and the plan to modernize the high school is a big project that we're going to be working on. And also, lastly, about the North Grand building and starting to change direction maybe and potentially using the North Grand building in the high school remodernization. So there's all kinds of sections to the audit report. Let's see, get past these. There was the economic, but within the report there's sections of the report that I won't go through, but there's the basic notes to the financial statements. There's a lot of things that they're required to make comments about and explain. I guess the big thing maybe that people want to know from an audit report is what were the findings. So on page 75 and 76, we had one finding, and that was related to our certified budget, and in 2 areas we exceeded the amount or the estimate within those 2 areas. Those 2 areas were the non-instructional programs, which is the nutrition fund, and the other expense area, which is construction. So this is due to the middle school. And I want to make the point that the middle school project was on budget. And when you're doing the certified budget in April of 2016, and you're trying to figure out which expenses are going to be paid before the end of the year and which will flow into the following year, you have to make that estimate. And so we were over in those two areas, but the project itself was, you know, we reported on the budget, we, you know, spent $19 million. So I feel it was a good audit, I mean, with the one comment, but that was it.
Excellent.
Thanks,
Comments or
Terry.
questions?
That's great. It seems like a very small item to be discussed and nothing of great significance. So that's
Yeah.
good to know.
Yeah, every year it simply amazes me when they come, usually you come back with something like a $25 gift card, this or
Yeah.
that, that was.
Our
Yeah.
mileage forms.
Somebody was paid too much mileage or too little or
Yeah.
whatever, but I know the day that the auditors finished, I spoke to her on the phone briefly, and she had nothing but glowing remarks about everything here, and she commented, you know, just extremely positively about being able to work with you and how thankful she was for the work that you put into this, and I want to make sure that we all echo that comment. So,
Very much
we
so.
make it so easy on them and so easy on us.
When we're at convention and we get to talk to other board members and we ask questions and we hear comments, we know how much we appreciate having you and what you've done for our district and the finances and everything. So thank you.
And I guess I want to thank all the central office staff who
Yes.
put work into, you know, the report at year end.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the 6/30/17 audit report as presented.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the 6/30/17 audit report as presented. Any additional comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0. Move on to agenda item 15 is the financial report for November 2017.
Just two comments, I guess. Health fund, we were, our expenses increased slightly from last month, and since we've been kind of talking about the health fund balance, it was 2.7% down from last month, but still 18% above where we were at this time last year. So it all depends on when claims come in, and we'll see where we end up at year end. And then second comment, our early retirement incentives we're going to be making this month in January for the people that retired at the end of last year, which was 7 people, so.
Excellent. Comments or questions? Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the November 2017 financial reports as presented.
I'll second it.
Motion and second to accept the November 2017 financial reports as accepted. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0. Agenda item 16 is the consideration of the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
I'll make-
Move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Motion and second to approve the consent agenda as listed. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 5-0. Agenda item 17, correspondence and miscellaneous.
Enrollment summary.
Enrollment summary. I got the end of it. Positive surprise there.
Yeah.
A little bit of an increase. Agenda item 18, important upcoming dates.
Monday, the 15th, no school. It's a professional learning day and a half day and then half teacher work day. Third quarter starts on the 16th. We do have a school improvement advisory committee meeting on the 17th, so a week from Wednesday. And a labor management committee meeting coming up on January 22nd. Our next regular board meeting is also the 22nd.
Excellent. At that, we will close the regular, adjourn the regular portion of the board meeting.
We need to, before we can move, we have to go into closed session.
So, agenda item 19, listed here, is consideration of closed session per Iowa Code 21.5.1A to review or discuss records which are required or authorized by state or federal law to be kept confidential. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
Make a motion to go into closed session?
Second.
Motion is second to go into closed session, and I will ask for a roll call vote, please.
Geit,
Yes.
Freund,
Yes.
Mack,
Yes.
Newcomber.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. And we will be moving, I assume.